Hello friends, welcome to Joy of Life. So before we proceed with this episode, what I would like to tell you is that if you have not seen the system design introduction video wherein we have discussed about the architecture of this mini project that we are building, I would highly recommend you to check the same. I will leave a link to the description as well so that you can click, check the same and then get back onto the video. In the last video, we have talked about a lot of design choices that we have made earlier, and we have identified few of the places where our design choices were not correct. And in few places, we have found out that we need to introduce something new. Redis was one among them. So what we are going to do today is to set up Redis, understand Redis, play around with it a little, and if time permits, in this episode, we are going to configure Redis in our application, or we'll keep it parked for the next one. So I am in the Docker Hub page and we are going to go ahead and search for Redis. So you can just come here and search for Redis. So once you search for it, you will find a lot of images. And what we are going to do is we are going to pick up the official image. So you can see the tag over here and here is Redis and we are going to use this. So here is Redis and all the documentation, just like any other service that we have used from Docker, is present over here, which is pretty extensive, and it's a very straightforward image. So the latest version being 6.2.4. So what we are going to do is we are going to first pull this image and check it out. So here we are in the command prompt. So what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and use the command docker pull redis, and we are going to get the image first. So the image is being downloaded, and by default it will go ahead and download the latest version, which is 6.4 something like that. So yeah, it's a very small image, it's not a very heavy image. So yeah, our download is almost complete, and let's go to Docker images and check if the image is showing up. So you can see over here that Redis has been downloaded, the latest version, and it's been updated 4 days ago, and it's around 105 MB. So we have the image. So before we move on and create a container and start using Redis, let's understand what it is. So Redis is basically a open source in-memory data structure store, you can say, which can be used as a database, cache, or a message broker. So you can have persistent storage using Redis. So Redis provides a huge array of data structure like strings, hashes, lists, sets, sorted sets. It supports a lot of other things as well, like bitmaps, hyperlogs, geospatial index, streams, and it also comes with the inbuilt support for Lua scripting. So you can write a Lua script on the Redis cluster and execute it. So now what we are going to do, we are going to go ahead and create a container, and creating a Redis container is very simple. We can just use this Docker command in order to create a container. So Docker run followed by some name and then the image name. So let's go ahead and create one. So Docker run, and for name, we are going to give the name as Redis, and we are going to run it in a detached mode, and the name is also Redis. So it's going to go ahead and create the container for us. So let's check the containers. So you can see that Redis is running. It's created 6 seconds ago, and this is running on port 6379, and here are the details. All these things are available in your documentation. So this is how you interact with your Redis cluster or your standalone Redis instance. So it's very straightforward. Everything is mentioned over here. So you can just go around and try it out of your own as well. So before connecting, what we'll do is we'll inspect the container and get the IP, because we need the IP in order to connect. Though you can connect it with localhost as well, but we are going to use this IP. So you have to give the command like docker run it and then the name of the container followed by the command. So we want to use Redis CLI. So it will be connected in an interactive mode, and then your host name. So 172.17.0.2. This one over here. So this is the IP address. So let's see if we can connect. So as you see that we are connected, and this is the host and this is the port. So as you saw earlier that it's running on 6379 port. So it connected to that port. So 6379, and we are connected, and we can go ahead and check few things. Now to figure out the commands that we use for Redis is also very straightforward. What we can do is we can head over to the web and search for Redis command. So over here you'll find the Redis command in their official website. You can go inside it and all the commands will be listed over here as you see. So once you do a search with get, you will see the commands over here matching. So these all have the name get somewhere or the other, but we are interested in using the get command for now. So get and set are the two things that we are going to use. So once you click on them, you will find a very nice documentation containing all the details. Along with get, we cannot get until we set something, right? So we'll also search for the set command. So once again, if you search for set, you will have a box over here with the set. So you can just click on it, you'll find all the details, how to set things and all. So there are various options that you can use, but we are going to look at the simple set command for the time being. So back to the console. So what we are going to do is use the set command. So as you type in the name set, you can see that you have been given with some recommendations. And let's say we wanted to set some key value pair, right? My key is hello and my value is a world. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put a key value where the key is hello and the value is world. So as you can see, we got a OK once we did that. So now what will happen is when I do a get with the key hello, so what I'll get back is a world. So if you try for anything else, you will be having a nil because there is nothing called hello one, right? So this is one of the use cases, very naive use cases. Okay, and if you want to remove a key, then you can just type in del and then followed by your key. And if you want to delete multiple keys at a time, you can just give it space separated. So now it is deleted. So you can see an integer 1. So it has returned 1. So if I do a get with hello now, there is nothing. So we are going to play around with more commands, and before that, we talked about a requirement wherein our key will be deleted or evicted from the cache after 1 day. So let's try out something similar. So once again, going back to the documentation page over here, what we can see is that set allows us to set a lot of options. There are a bunch of options supported like X, PX. So what they do is you set the specified expire time in seconds, set the specified expire time in milliseconds. So we can see that we can provide a time to live. So TTL is nothing but the time to live. So how long the key and the value is going to be there inside our cache, and after which it will be evicted. Okay, so we'll try out with X. So X requires a second, so we'll need something like a set X. So you can see over here we have a set EX. So let's go into this documentation. So what it does is it's very same. It takes a set X followed by the key followed by the time after which it will expire in seconds followed by the value. So this time we are going to use set EX and my key is again a hello and my seconds or the expiry seconds is 15 and the value is world. What it will do is it will set the key value pair for hello world and it will be only there in the cache for 15 seconds. After which if you do a get, you will get a nil, and we'll see how. So let's put this and let's try to get hello. So you can see that we are getting hello back, right? But once 15 seconds has passed, we will start getting a nil. So we are probably at 10 seconds or something like that. But soon you will see that we are getting a nil value back. So it has started showing up nil value. So that means we don't have the key value pair anymore in our cache. Similarly, there are a whole bunch of commands over here. I am going to show you a few very useful commands. So one is an increment. So what this increments and increment by does is generally when we want to increment a particular value, what do? Let's say you have a map with a key and a value. So if you want to increment the value, what you do is you get the value, then you increment and again store it back into the map. But what Redis supports, it supports a direct increment or increment by operation. So what it will do is once the key is set, you can just increment the key by a certain value. So let's say I am setting a key called count and my value is 100. Okay, so when I do a get by my count, I get 100. So what I can do now directly is I can increment it by certain value. So what I can say is increment. So what if I do an increment, what it does is I just did an increment, I got 101. So if I do a get, I will get 101. So it means it's just incremented by 1. So you can see that every time I do an increment, it increases by 1. Now if I get, I'll get 104 because it has been done so many times. And there is also a increment by. So in that you can just put the key and say that increment by 100. So what will happen is it will increment by that much of value. So this will help you to perform the operation at once. In general, what you had to do, you had to get the data from the map, increment it, and then put it back, right? But here we can do the operation in just a single command. And similarly, we have decrement and decrement by as well. So if you wanted to try them out, so once again, we can do a decrement. So the current value is 204 as you see, and we do a count. So it got reduced. And similarly, decrement by, and if I decrement it by say 3, what I'll have is a 200, right? So there are pretty much of helpful handy commands that you can use in order to get things done. And another interesting command is the getset command. So getset command, what it does is it automatically sets the key to value and returns the old value stored at key. So what happens is it returns the old value and stores the new value. Now do a get of count. What I get is a 200. Now I can do a get set and then I say put my count to say 500. So what it does is it returns me the old value. So now my count is 500, but before changing it, it has returned me the old value. So if I do a count now, what I get is a 500. So once again, if you wanted to get the old value and replace it with a new value, you can directly use this command. And now let's go ahead and check some of the data structures that Redis supports, and let's see how to use them. So once again, in the documentation homepage where we have the commands, what you can do is you can filter by different data structures. So let's say we wanted to check on list. It supports a wide range of operations like a pop, like a position, like a push, everything. You can do a left push, you can do a right push. So we are going to start with the basic one and I will leave the rest up to you to explore. So we are going to populate a list and see how it goes. So we are going to use the insert and push commands in order to create it. So let's check out the insert first. So since we are now dealing with data structure, it will talk about the complexity, the time taken by this operation. So you can see order of n, where n is the number of element to be traversed before putting the value. So let's try out with the push. So push, you can see, is the order of 1. So it will just go ahead and put the element in the front of the queue. So push is the order of 1. So the element will be added just at the end of the list. We are going to try this out. So what it does is if your list is not there, then it's going to go ahead and create the list first, and then it's going to do the push operation. So lpush is the command over here. So let's go ahead and try it. So let's say lpush, and I have my fruits over here, and say I wanted to put apple, orange, mango. So you can see that we got a return 3, and that means these 3 elements have been put. So if I do a get of fruits now, so since this is a list, right, we cannot do a get on it. So get is only for the string types. For different data structure, we have to use different kind of command. So keep in mind that if you are not putting a string or an integer, do not use a get. So since we are dealing with a list, so what we can do is we can use a L range. So this is a list range, and you have to provide a range from where to where you wanted to see the list. So let's try it out. So let's see from 0 to 5. So it has returned all the elements present inside 0 to 5, and there are only 3. So if I change this to 1 now, you will get only 2 elements, the 0th index and the first index, right? If you wanted to get the size, you can do a len, and then you can pass the fruits. So it will say that you have only 3 elements over here, right? And what you can do is you can do a left push, and you can push it from the left side of the list. So I'm doing a left push, and what we have is an apple, orange, mango, and let's say we are adding banana. Okay, now if I go ahead and check the list, so you can see the banana has been added to the left. And if I do a right push, again, it will be added to the right side. And let's say we are putting kiwi this time. So 5 elements has been added, and you can see that the kiwi is at the end and banana is at the top. Similarly, you can go ahead and create set and any other type of data structure that you want. So you have a bunch of choices from here that you can use. And you can also go ahead and try out the hashes. So hashes is a very interesting thing that we can do with hashes. So let me give you one quick example what we can do with hashes. So now let's say you wanted to store an object and you wanted to store them in a way that you have different fields, right, for an object. So let's say we have a user object, right? So we are going to store the data of a user object field by field. So let's try out how it goes. Let's say I'm doing a getset and I'm calling it user1, and I am giving a field that this is the first name of the user, and the first name is say John. So you can see that I have stored the first name for the user. So similarly, again, I go and set the last name for the user one as well. So I stored the last name, and let's put it Snow. So we have John Snow. So now when I do a hget by the user one, sorry, I missed the argument. So I just wanted to get it first name. So I will get the first name. And similarly, when I try to get the last name, I can get the last name. So we don't need to have separate keys. So we can just use it inside the same hash and we can get all the data. And there are many other operations on this. So you can do a hget all, and you can say that I want every details for the user one. So you'll get the first name John, last name Snow, like this. So you can add up multiple values. So you don't need to store them in a separate way or split them up with some delimiter or things like that. You can just go ahead and use the hget and hset kind of operations, and you can directly store them. And similarly, all of these commands come with a exist and all. So if you want to check in your data store that you have this user one as a field called address or not, you will get a 0, and you can just go ahead and check for a field that exists. So you'll get a 1 for those. So you can see over here for address we got a 0, but for the other fields we got a 1. So it provides a pretty convenient way to deal with things, right? And there are more to it, and they are very easy. Basically, you can just go ahead and try it out. You can try out the set, you can try out sorted set. So these are nothing but data structures, different data structures. So this is called a data structure store rather than just a key value store, because of its ability to store so many kinds of data types, right? We have list, we have sets, sorted sets, streams, strings, everything can be stored here and used very efficiently, right? So since this episode was little stretched, so what I'll do is I'll not put the coding part over here. I'll keep it separate. But before that, I wanted to discuss a couple of things with you. So just to give you a quick walkthrough, this was our application and we propose to use it for our service, wherein we just go ahead and check the cache data. So anyways, we are not going to make any changes over here. So to use Redis with our Spring application or with any Java application, there are a lot of libraries. So one of the popular being Redis. So we can go ahead and use the Redis library, and there is another one called lettuce. Here is lettuce.io. So these two are very nice libraries in order to get connected with Redis. So as you see over here, that it's very straightforward the way we connect. There are some pros and cons with both, and we are going to discuss them in a lot more details when we are going to use them. Though our use case is very straightforward and simple, but we will be requiring Redis in multiple services that we are building, right? So we will take both. So probably for our URL feeder service, we'll use lettuce, and for our HTML worker, we'll go ahead and use Redis. We'll try out both so that we get to learn both, understand their difference, and then make the right choices when we need to do in our actual day-to-day project or in our workplace, right? So yeah, that's all from this video. I will not extend it any further. So I hope you got the flavor of how to use Redis, different commands, how to find out the commands, how to run them, how to get more details out of them. So I would highly recommend that please go ahead and download the Docker image, set it up. Even if you don't have the application, you don't need to worry about it. You can just go ahead and download the Redis container, play around with it. Just go ahead on the Redis documentation, try out the commands yourselves. So it's pretty handy, pretty easy, and it will provide you a good learning experience. So yeah, that's all from this video. Do take care and stay subscribed. We'll meet again very soon. Bye bye.